Hi everyone. I think we're gonna wait like 1 minute for more people. Um, yeah, I think it would be best if the people who are presenting have their cams on because people like to see who they're talking to. Okay, I think we're gonna start. Okay, so welcome to the Science Career Panel, presented by the Career Advancement Committee of the SNHS, and we'll be discovering and exploring the variety of careers in science today. So I'm Brian. I'm the co-head. Well, now I'm the head of the uh, Career Advancement Committee, and I think can each presenter, if you're presenting today, can you like unmute yourself and introduce yourself? Like maybe say your major if you have one, and your name.
Yeah, so hello, I'm John. I'm in the PharmD major and I'm a junior.
Hi, I'm Beatrice, and I'm in the biology major.
Hi, my name is Vincent, and I'm in the aerospace major.
Hello, my name's Justin. I'm also in the pharmacy major, senior.
All right, thank you guys. Okay, um, so there are a lot of type of different careers and specialties within those careers, such as engineering or doctor specialties. But we're gonna try to introduce as many as we can from a variety of fields. So before we start talking about careers, I kind of want to go over some of the statistics and what they mean. And if anyone has anything they want to add or questions at the end of the slide, feel free to raise your virtual hand. Oh, hold on. Can you guys see my screen?
Not really, it just says like Brian has started screen sharing, but we don't see anything. Okay, never mind.
Okay. Okay, so let's start with median salary. This will be one of the statistics on each slide. Okay, so what is median salary? Well, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, or BLS, which is a division of the US Department of Labor, reports that the median salary for hundreds of occupations. The word median, of course, means the middle, and it is one that if you list in numerical order, all the salaries for each individual working in occupation, and it falls in the middle of the list. So half the individuals on that list earns less than the median and half earns more. But for almost every job out there, salary can vary by location, place of employment, experience, and specialty. So let's take a look at the picture on the right. So it shows a nurse, practitioner, salary by state. Some as high as 139K in California, or on the lower end, like in Alaska, um, which is about 115K. And so on the left, we can also see the cost of living and how that factors into determining average salary of a nurse practitioner. So in Hawaii, for example, to afford a lifestyle that is 100,000, you need to earn well significantly higher to compensate for that, 67% higher than the average cost of living. So a common question is, why do people look at the median salary instead of the mean salary? Well, it takes into account how many employers compensate entry-level and earners versus how much they actually pay workers with the years of experience, as well as the salaries of all the employees in between. So there are outliers, workers who make very little and those with exceptionally high salaries. Here's an example. There are 9 earthworm farmers. 2 earn 18,000 each. 3 of them are each paid 19,000, and 2 of them make about 20,000. Another works for a stingy boss and only earns 10,000. So, and then another one gets a very generous salary of 45,000. That 45,000 outlier will give you a mean that is much higher than the median. So we want to avoid mean because it actually factors in outliers, which would skew the average by a lot. Okay, so the next statistic I'd like to go over is job outlook, or in other words, projected growth rate. So job outlook is a forecast of the change in the number of people employed in a particular occupation over a set period. For example, it could be 2 years, 5 years, or 10 years. So the BLS compares an occupation's projected employment change, usually over 10 years, to the average projected change in employment for all occupations over the same period. They will describe a career's projected job outlook by saying it will grow much faster than average, which is a 14%, faster than average, as fast as average, slower than average, little or no change, or decline. So why should we just consider job outlook when choosing a career? Well, after determining a career is a good fit based on the results of a self-assessment, everyone should take the time to learn everything about it before investing money and time preparing for it. So that must include determining whether you are likely to find a job when your training and education are complete, or maybe some other statistics. So by the time we finish college or grad school, these numbers may be very different. While job outlook statistics are not guarantees and don't tell the whole story about the career, you will kind of have a better understanding of the field you are planning to enter. So it's good to investigate the job outlook for your current occupation when you're thinking about changing careers. One of the reasons to make a career change is a worsening job outlook. If employment opportunities are few and it looks like, one might get worse, it may be time to prepare to work in another different field. Okay, I think Beatrice we'll start presenting the careers and Beatrice will start presenting the slide.
I can't really present. I can't share my screen.
Can you see mine?
Yeah, I think you should just change it. Like move on to the next if you want. Okay. So the first career that is gonna be presented is agricultural and food science technician, which has a median pay of $41,230 and an entry-level education of an associate's degree. The steps to becoming an agricultural and food science technician involve an associate's. It's most recommended that people in this career path get an associate's degree in biology, chemistry, or crop science. However, some people have entered successfully with a high school diploma, but they need training and experience that may last a year. Some positions in this career path also require a bachelor's degree in science. But just a job summary, an agriculture and food science technician works in areas of food production. Many work in a lab, as you can see in the picture, and they begin as trainees working under more experienced scientists. With a job outlook of 4% the next 10 years, it is growing slower than average. And it has 24,000 jobs in 2019. Speaking of the workplace, agriculture, cultural, and food science technicians work outdoors and labs. They measure and observe crops. They would test the quality and safety of certain food products through gathering samples and keeping detailed records of growth or failure of growth.
Okay, before we move on, I think it didn't share properly, like my screen. So I'm gonna go back 2 slides to median salary so you guys can see the picture of what I was talking about between the salaries of a nurse practitioner. So over here on the left, you can see the salaries by state. And I was talking about California, how it had a higher salary than say like Alaska, which only has a median of 100K. And that's because we're factoring the cost of living. And to like afford a higher cost of living, you got to earn more in that state. So you will earn more in that state. Yeah. And then job outlook. So this is what it means. So over 14% is much faster than average. 19 to 13 is faster than average. 5 to 8 is as fast as average. 2 to 4 is slower than average. Less than 1% is little or no change. And over 2% is decline.
So I will tell you guys about the job of a physician assistant. So a physician assistant, or also known as a PA, works alongside surgeons and doctors to help diagnose, examine, and treat patients. So the PA practices medicine in the same traditional way as other medical professionals do. They're often sometimes confused with medical assistants. So a PA has much greater authority in the competence of medicine. So the work environment of a PA is typically a full-time schedule. Some even put in more than 40 hours per week. And they're usually expected to work on their feet for extended periods of time due to the frequency involvement with patient care and how unpredictable that is. So to become a PA, a person must graduate from an accredited master's program. And the timeline for this is around 2 years, but it can depend on a person's stage in life. So as you can see, a physician assistant makes around 112,000 a year, and the number of jobs is around 125,000. And if you look, the job outlook is incredibly big. And this is due to, as we approach our futures, there's going to be a big increase in older generations, specifically baby boomers. So they will flood the medical market, you would call it, and surgeons and doctors will need to rely on PAs to help them in their career.
All right, so biochemist and biophysicist, the median pay is 94,490 per year. Entry-level education, you would need a doctoral or professional degree. So basically, you need a PhD to conduct independent research and development. But if you have a bachelor's and master's, that also get you some entry-level positions in biochemistry and biophysics. Number of jobs, there are 34,600 in 2019. Job outlook is 4%, so slower than average. And what they do, biochemists and biophysicists basically study the chemical and physical principles of living things and of biological processes, such as cell development, growth, heredity, and disease. Some biochemists and biophysicists become natural sciences managers. Those who pursue management careers spend much of their time on administrative tasks, such as preparing budgets and schedules. Where do they work? biochemists and biophysics typically work in laboratories and offices to conduct experiments. And most of them work full-time. So it is a very educated career if you're interested in that.
Sorry guys, just some technical difficulties. Okay, so veterinarians, they have a median pay of 95K, an entry level education of a you need a PhD, an MD. Number of jobs is about 89K. Job outlook is looking to be 16%, and what they do is they are healthcare professionals whose entire education and practice is focused on animals. They have a vast body of medical knowledge, though most will have specific training to treat specific species. This is especially true when it comes to working with animals and exotic species. So let's take a look at the specialty areas. That includes aviation practice, which deals with birds, canine practice, feline practice, beef cattle practice, dairy cow practice, reptile and amphibian practice, and swine health practice. So they are primarily known to work in clinics, but many vets are found in less public environments. Vets help protect public health by preventing diseases that might spread from animal to humans, researching animal disease and health, and even ensuring the health of agricultural animals so that humans are protected. So what are the steps to becoming a veterinarian? You should start your path to becoming a vet by discovering a true love for animals. Of course, you need a passion in your work. You also need to have an objective, scientific mind that loves animal biology. Since animals are incapable of speaking, you should in some way become an advocate for them and have a special sort of attitude that puts them at ease. So if you have a dog or a cat at home, this already puts you at an advantage because you're used to dealing with animals in a calm setting. So once you know that being a vet is for you, you should look into vet medicine, apply to a school that offers a pre-vet med program. From there, you will still need to complete a vet med school, a residency, and then you can enter your career.
So I'll be introducing medical scientists. So medical scientists who conduct research usually work in laboratories and use a wide variety of equipment. And some may work directly with individual patients or larger groups as they administer drugs and monitor patients during clinical trials. And often these scientists also spend time working in clinics and hospitals. And they're not usually exposed to unsafe or unhealthy environments. But if they do, those who work with dangerous organisms or toxic substances must follow strict safety procedures to avoid contamination. And as for their working hours, they typically work in offices or laboratories, but longer hours are not really uncommon. And researchers may be required to work odd hours in laboratories or other locations, and this really depends on the nature of the research. So physicists and astronomers. Physicists study the laws and structures of all that exist in the universe, including gravity, other natural forces, while astronomers use physics to study space and the bodies within it, like planets and stars. So the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, or you might notice NASA, and agencies within the US Department of Defense have traditionally been two of the largest employers of physicists and astronomers in the federal government. The scientific research and development industry includes both private and federally funded national laboratories, such as the Lawrence Livermore Laboratory in California, the Los Alamos National Laboratory in New Mexico, and the Goddard Institute in Maryland. Physics research is usually done in small or medium-sized laboratories, but experiments in some areas of physics, such as nuclear and high-energy physics, they usually require extremely large and expensive equipment, such as particle accelerators and nuclear reactors. And although physics research may require extensive experimentation in laboratories, physicists still spend much of their time in offices planning, analyzing, fundraising, and reporting on research. And most physicists and astronomers work full-time. And due to the nature of their work, astronomers usually need to work at night because radiation from the sun tends to interfere less with observations made during nighttime hours. And they also typically visit observatories only a few times per year to keep normal office hours. Next slide. So sociologists, they typically also work in the office, and they may work outside of an office setting when conducting research through interviews or observations or presenting research results. And they work full-time during regular business hours. So to be a sociologist, you typically need a master's degree or a PhD. And there are two types of sociology master's degree programs, and there are traditional programs and applied clinical and professional programs. So traditional programs prepare students to enter a PhD program, while applied clinical and professional programs prepare students to enter the workplace, teaching them the necessary analytical skills to perform sociological work in a professional setting. And courses in research methods and statistics are important for candidates in both master's and PhD programs because many of these programs also offer opportunities to gain experience through internships or by preparing reports for clients. And candidates with a bachelor's degree may benefit from internships or volunteer work when looking for entry-level positions in sociology or any other related field. These types of opportunities give students a chance to apply their academic knowledge in a professional setting and develop skills needed for the field. And sociologists are also really similar to psychologists in terms of what they do for work on a daily basis, which Brian kind of mentioned in the previous slides. So they both study people, but while psychologists delve into the mind of an individual or small group to understand human behavior and social emotional reactions, sociologists look beyond individuals to examine society through specific associations such as family, race, religion, or other things to understand current issues.
Okay, so next we have zoologist and wildlife biologist. So they have a median pay of 63,000. You need a bachelor's degree which is the lowest level education you need to become one of these biologists. And the number of jobs is 21K. Job outlook is looking to be 4%. And so zoologists and wildlife biologists study animals and other wildlife and how they interact with their ecosystems. They work in offices, laboratories, or outdoors. Depending on their job, they might spend time in the field gathering data and studying animals in their natural habitats. So they perform a variety of scientific tests and experiments. For example, they might take blood samples from animals to assess their nutrition levels, check animals for disease and parasites, and also tag animals in order to track them. Although the roles and abilities of zoologists and biologists often overlap, they typically conduct scientific investigations and basic research on particular types of animals, such as birds or amphibians, while wildlife biologists are more likely to study specific ecosystems or animal populations, such as particular at-risk species. Wildlife biologists also do applied work, such as the conservation and management of wildlife populations. They typically receive greater responsibility and independence in their work as they gain experience. More education also can lead to greater responsibility. Some famous zoologists and wildlife biologists you might know are Steve Irwin, Jane Goodall, Charles Darwin, and even the philosopher Aristotle, who discovered the first ever classification of the animal kingdom. And the picture on the screen shows a zoologist examining a leopard in the wilds of Russia. All right, psychologist. So psychologists have a median pay of about 80K. Most of psychologists usually have a doctoral degree. There's about 192,000 psychologists working in the US right now. The job outlook is 3%. And so psychologists study the human mind from a scientific viewpoint to help people understand and change their behavior. Types of psychologists include clinical, counseling, school, and industrial organizational. All right, so different psychologists make different salaries. So a counseling psychologist could make a median annual salary of 54,000. A school psychologist could make 60,000, and an industrial organizational psychologist might make 70,000. So there are very limited job opportunities for industrial and organizational psychologists holding a bachelor's degree. So the Bureau of Labor Statistics reports that most clinical and counseling psychologists require an advanced degree, such as master's or PhD. Like many other careers, those with a master's degree can obtain an entry-level position, while those with a doctoral degree will be more likely to be considered for additional employment opportunities, which gives them an advantage over the competition. So more education for these type of jobs is always good. So let's talk about work environment. So elementary schools, high schools, middle schools can employ school psychologists. About a third of clinical and counseling psychologists are self-employed. So maybe they would go to someone's house if they're hired, if someone needs help solving an issue, maybe like marriage, they would come into a house and yeah, sit down with the people and actually talk to them. Most who work in this field, though, hold full-time positions, but part-time positions are also possible, especially in private practices. So their work schedule, because clinical psychologists must be available when their clients aren't working, many have office hours in the evenings and on weekends. School psychologist hours are during school hours, and industrial organizational psychologists work during regular business hours. So in terms of office hours, it's kind of like teachers. So they would hold maybe Zoom meetings right now, or you can call them up, and if you need them and they're available, they would come along and help out. Okay, so next we have anthropologists and archaeologists. They have a median pay of 63,000, entry-level education of a master's degree, 88,000 jobs available right now. The job outlook is about 5%. And so anthropologists study people and primates such as chimps, researching their cultural, physical, and social development over time. On the other hand, archaeologists investigate history by finding and studying the remains and objects a society leaves behind. So what type of people would be well suited for this job? So to become an anthropologist or archaeologist, it helps to be curious, creative, patient, analytical, and open-minded. You will need good writing and speaking skills to help people understand the results of your research. Some of their tasks, hold on, I gotta change slide, I think. Is that better? Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so some of their tasks include writing reports under strict deadlines, spending hours analyzing data and crunching numbers, juggling teaching and research if you're a professor, traveling to live in unfamiliar places and cultures, do tough physical work in harsh weather and at a dig or building site, or last but not least, work both independently and as part of a team. So the work of anthropologists varies according to the specific job, of course. Although most anthropologists work in offices, some analyze samples in laboratories or work in the field. They often do field work in either United States or foreign countries. Field work may involve learning foreign languages, living in remote areas, and examining and excavating archaeological sites. Field work usually requires travel for extended periods, about 4 to 8 weeks per year. During field work, they must live with the people they study to learn about their culture. The work can involve rugged living conditions and strenuous physical exertion. So if you already have an interest in traveling, maybe your dream for retirement is traveling the world, an anthropologist or archaeologist may be for you because as a job, they travel and learn about new cultures, live with them, eat their food in order to live with, to learn more about their culture. And so if you're interested in becoming an anthropologist or archaeologist, something that high schoolers can do is look for a summer job or internship at a local museum, library, historical site, or historical society.
So hydrologists. So as for their work environment, they work in offices, classrooms, laboratories, and in the field. And the federal government and state governments and consulting and engineering firms employ the majority of these hydrologists. And they work out in the field, so they may need to wade into lakes and rivers to collect samples and inspect the equipment. And their work may also be affected by strong water currents and bad weather. And additionally, many of their this type of work requires a significant amount of travel, and some jobs in the private sector may involve international travel. And most of them need to work full time because of the amount of traveling they have to do. So many of their hours may vary depending on where you are in this field. And jobs similar to this include atmospheric scientists, environmental technicians, conservationists, and environmental scientists.
So a pharmacy technician may do some of the duties following like prescriptions and medications of patients, receiving and verifying the prescriptions, pricing and filling the prescriptions, and obtaining a pharmacist approval. So pharmacy technicians and pharmacists are two separate things. A pharmacist has a much higher standard than a pharmacy technician, which means that a pharmacy technician is prohibited by law to perform like the final check on a prescription, counsel with the patients, and advise them on certain medications or health-related issues. Other from that, a pharmacy technician is basically allowed to do everything else a pharmacist can. So there's two big settings for pharmacy technicians. A hospital setting, where you'll find them often compounding IV solutions, delivering medications, restocking medications, and anything kind of related to dosing tablets in like a bulk bottle. And then you'll have a retail pharmacy. So that is someone who may intake or write electronic prescriptions, do all the billing insurance, compounding various ointments and liquids, and accurately counting medication. So the entry-level education for a pharmacy technician is very low. All you need is a high school diploma or anything equivalent to that. However, many states regulate this for safety, so you'll often find a certification. So in New York at the moment, this certification is not required. So all you would need is a high school diploma and a few other background tests. However, some private clinics and corporations will require a certification. So as you can see, although the education is low, so is the pay, which when compared to a pharmacist, they'll have a higher level of education requirement and a higher pay. And the job outlook is also pretty low. However, we may see an increase in that due to the fact that there will be an increased reliance on these older generations. And they will need more prescriptions to fill out.
Yeah, and before we move on, I also want to add on that if you take organic chemistry pharmacy seminar at Tech, Mr. Evangelist or another teacher who teaches it will actually help you prepare for the pharmacy technician exam. But as John said, you don't actually need the certification in New York, but it's always useful to have it in case like there's competition between you and another person to get that job. Then you have the certification behind your name, which is really useful sometimes. And also it kind of gives you more knowledge on pharmacy.
Okay, so forensic science technician. If you enjoy solving crimes, this might be the job for you. A forensic science technician helps investigate crimes by collecting and analyzing physical evidence. Most technicians specialize in either crime scene investigation or laboratory analysis. In addition, they often testify in court, particularly if they have specialized areas of expertise such as fingerprinting, biochemistry, DNA analysis, blood spatter patterns, or handwriting analysis. Forensic science technicians may work for local, state, or federal law enforcement agencies, crime labs, the coroner's office, and hospitals. The median pay is $59,150. Entry level, you would need a bachelor's degree in the natural sciences, such as biology or chemistry. There are 17,200 jobs as of 2019, and job outlook is as high as 14%.
Okay, so next we have nurse practitioners. So the median pay is about 116K. Of course, that varies, as we saw in the slide about median pay. The example was about a nurse practitioner, and 115K is actually in the higher end, which is maybe California or sometimes in Hawaii. And the entry level education I'll go over as we go into job summary. So what do nurse practitioners do? So they are healthcare providers that can prescribe medication, examine patients, order diagnostic tests, diagnose illness, and provide treatment. So they're pretty much almost like physicians. Their experience as working nurses gives them a unique approach to patient care, while their advanced studies qualify them to take on additional duties that are usually left to physicians. So in fact, as reported by the Kaiser Family Foundation, or KFF, it's estimated that nurse practitioners can provide 80 to 90% of the care that primary care physicians offer. So what's their scope of practice? So nurse practitioners have full practice authority in 20 states, meaning that they don't have to work under the supervision of a doctor. In the remaining states, where they don't have the full authority, they have more authority than registered nurses or RNs, but they need a medical doctor to sign off on certain patient care decisions. So they can basically do a lot of things that the physicians can do, but they still need a sign off from them. So let's talk about education. How do you become a nurse practitioner? So the first step is to become a registered nurse. So you have to go to school for that, and maybe choosing nursing major in college, go to nursing school, and then you come out of the nursing school to become a registered nurse. Second, you gain more nursing experience, and then fourth, you enroll in a graduate program, so like an MSN or a DNP. And last but not least, you earn your advanced practice nursing license in practical nursing. So the top 10 schools with the best nurse practitioners programs ranked by nurses include University of Virginia, Yale, Duke, UPenn, Emory, Georgetown. We have UNC, Chapel Hill, Vanderbilt, Boston College, and Columbia University. According to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, nurse practitioners are actually the second fastest growing occupation under wind turbine service technicians. So nurse practitioners also have a higher salary, have more responsibility, and more career opportunities than many other nurses. That's why their median pay is significantly higher than of other nurses.
Okay, dentists. Dentists diagnose and treat dental issues and help patients develop better oral hygiene regimens. They clean teeth, correct bite issues, perform surgeries and extractions, and perform other duties to ensure that the health and mouth are healthy. They also provide advice and instruction on taking care of the health in teams that affect oral health. Median pay is $159,200. Entry-level education, you will need a doctoral or professional degree. So after going through undergrad school, you will also have to complete a accredited dental program before you are fully licensed. There are 151,600 jobs, and job outlook is 3%. Next slide. Petroleum engineers. Petroleum engineers help find oil and gas for the country's energy needs. Petroleum engineers design and develop methods for extracting oil and gas from deposits below the Earth's surface. They also find new ways to extract oil and gas from older wells. Median pay is $137,720. Entry-level education. Petroleum engineers must have a bachelor's degree in engineering, preferably in petroleum engineering, but mechanical, civil, and chemistry engineering degrees are also okay. There are 33,400 jobs, and job outlook is also 3%.
Okay, so next we have physicians and surgeons. So the median pay is over 208K. I think most of us know that based on what specialty you go into, what type of physician, what type of surgeon you are, that pay is gonna hugely vary. So maybe like a anesthesiologist can make up to like 600K. That's the median actually, 600K. A surgeon can make up to like, I think 700K. But that really depends on what type of surgeon you are and what type of physician. So education and training. So physicians and surgeons have demanding education and training requirements. So physicians typically need a bachelor's degree, a degree from medical school, that, which takes 4 years to complete, and depending on the specialty, 3 to 7 years in internship and residency programs. For example, a plastic surgeon may need med school, 3 to 5 years of general surge residency, another 3 years of fellowship, 2 years of specialty experience, and a board certification. On the other hand, a cosmetic surgeon might only require completion of med school and just 1 year of fellowship. So they're both really long years of training and education, but some of the specialties might require less training than some of the others. So they diagnose and treat injuries or illnesses. Physicians examine patients, take medical histories, prescribe medications, and order, perform, and interpret diagnostic tests. They often counsel patients on diet, hygiene, and preventive healthcare. On the other hand, surgeons operate on patients to treat injuries such as broken bones, diseases such as cancerous tumors, and deformities such as cleft palates. There are two types of physicians with similar degrees, and they are MD, which stands for medical doctor, and DO, which is a doctor of osteopathic medicine. So both use the same methods of treatment, including drugs and surgery, but DOs place additional emphasis on the body's musculoskeletal system, preventive medicine, and have a more holistic approach to patient care. So holistic means like taking a person's whole body into consideration, maybe like also their mental health and physical health. Of course, both MDs and DOs do this, but a DO might approach it differently. So DOs are most likely to become primary care physicians, although they can be found in all other specialties as well. A famous DO you might not know of is Dr. Mike on YouTube. He does a lot of medical videos, reacting to medical shows, whether they're realistic or not. And yeah, when a lot of people hear of MD and think that MDs are the only type of physicians out there, but DO is becoming more popular too. So let's look at some of their duties. So they might perform some of the following: take a patient's medical history, update charts and patient information, order tests for nurses and other healthcare staff, review test results, recommend and design a plan of treatment, address concerns or answer questions that patients have about their health and well-being, help patients take care of their health by discussing topics such as proper nutrition and hygiene. So depending on what specialty they're in, they might be talking about skin, maybe talking about hair, or anything else. Physicians, okay, so let's talk about the work environment. So more and more physicians are working in group practices, healthcare organizations or hospitals where they share a large number of patients with other doctors. The group setting allows them more time off and lets them coordinate care for their patients, but it also gives them less independence than solo practitioners have. Surgeons and anesthesiologists usually work in sterile environments while performing surgery and may stand for long periods. How do their work schedules look? So most physicians and surgeons work full-time. Many of them work long, irregular, and overnight hours. They may travel between the offices and hospitals to care for the patients. And while on call, a physician may need to address a patient's concerns over the phone or even make an emergency visit to a hospital or nursing home. And we have a video at the end that's going to show us a day in the life of a surgeon. All right, next we have chemist. So a chemist median pay is 79K. The entry-level education is a bachelor's degree. Number of jobs is 94K, and they have a job outlook of 5%. So a chemist, they search for new knowledge about chemicals and use it to improve the way that we live. He or she may develop products such as synthetic fibers, drugs, or cosmetics. They specialize in areas such as analytical, organic, inorganic, physical, or theoretical, macromolecular, medical, and materials chemistry. So what's their work environment? They primarily have jobs in research, development, and physical engineering and life sciences. Pharmaceutical manufacturers and testing laboratories also employ chemists. Some also work for the federal government as well as state and local governments. Their workplaces are labs and offices where they're often part of research teams. And their work schedule is like regular and full-time hours, but they may occasionally need to work longer hours to meet project deadlines or perform time-sensitive work after hours. So how does the work of chemists differ from biochemist? So chemistry mainly deals with the study of physical and chemical properties of organic and inorganic matters. Chemistry has mainly three branches. So that's inorganic, physical, and organic chemistry. Today, many chemists are focusing on solving the world's energy and environmental problems, like global warming, the rising sea levels. But on the other hand, like Vincent went over in the slide about biochemist, biochemistry is a branch of chemistry that deals with the study of chemical basis of life in living organisms, including plants and animals. And biochemistry involves mainly studies of mostly organic compounds of biomedical interest. So people who are interested in becoming a chemist might also consider becoming a biochemist, a chemical engineer, or geoscientist. Some famous chemists may include Marie Curie. You definitely heard of John Dalton in chemistry class for his model of the of an atom, and Rosalind Franklin. And the picture shows chemists from Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis School of Science developing a new technique that could speed up drug development?
So a pharmacist is someone who dispenses prescriptions and medications along with the key information revolving around it, such as side effects, contradiction with other medicines, and a range of other concerns. They will walk with their customers and patients through their physician's dosage and in their instructions to ensure medications are safely consumed. So the work environment around a pharmacist usually involves government or military, while some work in private companies, and they spend a great deal of their time working indoors. The work schedule of a pharmacist is usually full-time. However, 1 in 5 pharmacists may work part-time shifts. And because pharmacies are open at all hours, some will also work nights and weekends. So if you're considering to become a pharmacist, the LIU PharmD major at Tech is a direct pathway to the pharmacy program at LIU. And LIU will be welcoming you with guaranteed admission to LIU Brooklyn. But should you choose to continue to pursue pharmacy and maintain the early assurance program requirements, you will also be guaranteed a seat into the doctor. So the completion of the AP courses and AP exams while you're at coupled with high enough SAT scores and transcript grades will allow you to save money on paying a full freshman year of college while gearing up for the doctor pharmacy PharmD degree. And if that's not enough, Long Island University will be in contact with you during your high school days to provide support so that your entrance into their institution will be smooth and seamless.
So the next one is neuropsychology, which is a subspecialty of psychology, which somebody presented earlier. It deals more with the brain functions and the nervous system and how it correlates with behavior. So diseases such as Parkinson's or Alzheimer's are evaluated in this field. They can conduct research and treat patients, although treatment mostly surrounds any brain or neurological damage that the patient may have suffered. However, unlike psychiatrists, which are medical doctors, psychologists in general cannot prescribe medications, though they do treat patients. The median pay for neuropsychologists are 94K. The entry level education, it's a doctoral degree. The number of jobs as of 2018 is 18,000, and the job outlook in the next 10 years will be 14%. Talking more about the education of a neuropsychologist, they require a bachelor's degree in psychology with special classes on neuroscience, and a graduate program in neuropsychology for 2 years, which then translates to a doctoral degree in neuropsychology, which is also necessary, and it would take 3 to 5 years to complete. To treat patients, psychologists need a state licensure because they're not doctors, and so it's not part of a medical degree. So.
So a pediatrician will be responsible for observing and treating growing children, as well as advising their parents or guardians on the course of action. So some of these duties that they may hold is helping children with teens feel at ease during physical checkups, advising parents, guardians on any unusual developments, assessing symptoms, diagnosing, and prescribing medications. So to become a pediatrician, you will need a doctor of medicine or an MD degree. Pediatricians are very similar to a regular doctor, regular physician. However, you will need to be really good with children and making them feel like safe and secure under your care, because sometimes, especially younger children, may have a tendency to get frightened at a doctor's or at any checkups. So you really need to have good connections with children in order to become a successful pediatrician. So as you can see, the median pay of a pediatrician is quite high, similar to a regular physician, around 184,000. There's also 28,000 jobs. However, the job outlook is on the decline. So if you are considering to become a pediatrician, that should be something you take in.
So for nuclear engineer, the median pay is 113,000 per year. The entry-level education is a bachelor's degree, and the number of jobs as of 2019 is 16,400. The job outlook is declining in the next 10 years by 13%. And more on the job, so a quick summary is that a nuclear engineer researches and develops the processes, instruments, and systems used to get benefits from nuclear energy and radiation. Many of these engineers find industrial and medical uses for radioactive materials, for example, and equipment used in medical diagnosis and treatment. So more on why the job outlook is declining. Traditional utilities that own or build nuclear power plants have employed the largest number of nuclear engineers. However, utilities often are opting for cheaper natural gas in power generation, so these nuclear engineers are no longer required. Nuclear engineers can also earn master's degrees to work in an academic environment as a teacher or a researcher, but typically nuclear engineers work in offices. So, yeah.
Okay, so unfortunately, Dr. Gore, which is the pathology lab manager at Mount Sinai, that was listed in the description for this event, she had to cancel her appearance last night, so we are unable to call another speaker in time for today's event. But there is a brief and lighthearted 5-minute day in the life video of a heart surgeon that I found interesting, and I think it shows many of the different tasks of a surgeon, from the preparation of a surgery to the surgery itself and other interactions in a hospital. So I'll be showing that.
Okay. Okay, 6 a.m., right on time. It's the story of my professional life, getting to the hospital in the dark and going home in the dark. We have surgery this morning. We operate most mornings. We're doing open heart surgery on a patient this morning, a minimally invasive mitral valve repair through a little incision in the side. Ready to go. Patients are nervous before open heart surgery. It's pretty understandable. But I always tell them the important thing is I'm not nervous. Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
So you showed up, huh? That's half the battle. Just showing up is half the battle.
Good morning.
Yeah. You all set for today?
Yes.
So it's just like we talked about in the office. We're going to work on fixing your mitral valve. We're going to do a little 2-inch incision in the side. Yeah, everything is favorable for that. Yeah. So just like we talked about. So anything go on last night I need to know about?
No major issues.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's go down to the ICU and we can review the patients that are there. Okay. Good morning, everybody. What's the plan?
The plan is to, if we can get the tubes out today, maybe keep the wires another day.
Okay.
And send them upstairs to
Can you go upstairs today? Or
Yes.
Okay, very good. Any issues we need to take care of before I go to the operating room?
No, sir.
No.
Okay, all righty. All right. Have a good day, and I'll catch up with you on the floor after surgery,
Okay.
okay?
Thanks.
The operation is like a well-choreographed ballet where everyone knows their role. The technicians and the scrub techs and the perfusionists who run the heart-lung machine. All these people are very sophisticated. They don't know exactly what to do. So the environment is very controlled. It's very pleasant. We actually listen to music. Now, the kind of music that we listen to is always a question. If it were up to me, I'd listen to classical music. But I've got a lot of 20-somethings and 30-somethings in there that if they listen to classical music, they get bored. So in order to keep them happy, I listen to rap or hip-hop and a lot of pop music. If you do something 1,000 times or 10,000 times, you get the sequence in your mind. And then the only thing you have to do is be ready for unexpected circumstances, which in a case like this would be very, very unusual. Okay, so I've got these special magnifying lenses on called loupes, and it allows me to see inside. They magnify 3.5 times, so everything looks very big and very close, and it helps us to evaluate valves and coronary arteries.
Okay, well, we're all finished. Surgery's over. Everything went fine. We were able to fix the patient's valve to a little 2-inch incision. He was stable through the whole time, and I'm completely satisfied. So now let's go give the family the good news. Okay, everything went great. Yeah, we're all done. The operation was nice and smooth. Everything went fine, okay? The nurses will give you a full briefing on what to expect once you see him in the ICU. Okay?
I appreciate it.
All
Thank you
righty.
so much,
Okay,
Doctor.
we'll talk later.
Okay.
All righty. Okay, well, the first case is over and had a successful completion, so I'm pretty satisfied. One thing about cardiac surgery is that every day is a new day. It's exciting. I've never been bored a single day in my entire career. So all in all, it's a pleasure and it's an honor to operate on patients and be entrusted with their care.
Okay, so if there are any questions or anything that anyone wants to say, you can say it now, but um that pretty much wraps it up for today's event. I left the SNHS website in case anyone wanted to check out future events. And yeah, thank you for coming. No, I believe there will not be attendance form. I believe that the execs are writing down the names. So don't worry about your attendance. Yes, you too. Have a nice day. I need my committee members to stay. So Vincent, Justin, Beatrice, don't leave just yet, okay?